Welcome back, everyone, to Hearthstone Grandmasters for the Americas as we get ready to kick off this week of Hearthstone Grandmasters with the beginning of the end, so to speak, as we have the road to the playoffs and global finals begin with group stages. Today is September 4th, 2020, and on this day in history, Los Angeles was founded as the Spanish settlers laid claim to what the area is now known as LA, where TJ and I essentially live. And of course, it is the central home base for most of our operations in Hearthstone Grandmasters, which is a fun fact for everybody involved. Speaking of fun facts, TJ, we have the bands in. Warlock band away, and Warrior as well. This doesn't really surprise us, does it?
I mean, I feel like there's some toss-up bans. Especially considering, bloodyface is running a priestless lineup, but I don't think that matters much. I think Eddie does have some anti-warrior techs in his deck, specifically like the Kobold Sticky Finger in his Highlander Mage, as well as the Ooze, so doubling down on weapon destruction, and then a little bit slower in the Mage category with an Archmage Antonidas at the top end, which I actually think does help with Warrior because it lets you get that little bit of burst damage, not needing to stick minions. So we'll see. I can expect there would have probably been a pre-span if bloodyface had it, but he gets a flex ban, so might as well just take out Zoo, which is the deck that he might have been least expecting coming into the week.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of respect for Warlock when you do have like a Druid Priest kind of lineup, and bloodyface was actually one of the players tweeting about that. So, I guess that is exactly what bloodyface was hoping for. I think if you are in his camp, looking at how lineups shape up, getting a ban is almost the full respect of acknowledging that the deck is very good. So I think that bloodyface will probably be really happy to see that, given that it's almost like getting a win anyways. So we're gonna go to Warrior versus the Druid, and Warrior has been kind of looming, so to speak. It seems like its spot in the metagame for a while leading to this expansion was one of the two best classes in the game, and it was either on permaban status or you had to account for it and try to beat it. And people were kind of predicting that, but it seems like instead it's kind of middle of the road, TJ. How do we expect Warrior going into week number 4 to perform, since it seems like a lot of people are eyeing that class in particular or banning it?
Yeah, honestly, the lineups differ so much. It's very hard to predict. Usually, if a player leaves Warrior up, it means that they have some type of answer for it, right? Whether it's a little bit more weapon destruction, or just decks that can take it to the late game. But I honestly think that Warrior is just kind of a middle-of-the-road class that's going to have a middling performance. I don't think it's a terrible deck, but I do think it has some glaring weaknesses, and one of those is if there's weapon destruction in the meta, you're not going to have a good time, because all of the bomb warrior decks that we're seeing are pretty all-in, with the exception of some of the players who brought Galakron, which does let you have some recurring damage as the game goes late. But it can be tough to navigate those later turns, especially since even with a bunch of removal packed in, decks like Druid, which can just make wave after wave of threats, you do have to pace out your removal. And I think that's at least the key to this matchup that we're going to see first. And Eddie has a lot of ramp in hand, and some good things to ramp into.
That's very much so. The ramp is going to hit really powerful cards like that Ysera Unleashed, and Survival of the Fittest will be online way earlier. Exotic Mount Seller is becoming really key in a lot of these Druid strategies. I've played a ton of variants of Druid on ladder over the past week, as it seems like Malygos Druid was the most prominent on ladder. But it does feel like the Exotic Mount Seller lists also have a ton going for them, especially ones that play like, an animated broomstick or two to really help them swing that board state early. Looks like Eddie's running the one broomstick version, and it makes sense given that in tournament environments, you have to account for a specific range of decks. There's going to be a lot less like, base hunters. You do see them a little bit like we just saw in the Europe series, but there's going to be a lot less aggression and just a little bit more mid-range and control to account for. So I actually really like the list that Eddie brought this week, even though there's a lot of people that love Malygos Druid as well.
Yeah, I think some players just realized that Priest wasn't going to be as strong, and unless you're going for a hard target Priest lineup, like Monsanto, for example, which we'll see later, the Survival Druid just has more consistency than the Malagos Druid. But yeah, Eddie in... I wouldn't call it an awkward position because he does have plays to make, but it's about what his follow-up is. If he innovates out the Astera here, he doesn't have a follow-up. If he plays Exotic Mount Seller, then again he doesn't have a good follow-up. It's kind of just throwing the Mount Seller out there to say, here's a removal test. Remove this, and if you don't, maybe I can capitalize on it. But bloodyface has a good chunk of removal. Blade Storm. Either removal
you gotta deal with it.
There was option to like trade Shield Slam and Wrench Caliber. I honestly may have liked that better because with Blastmaster Boom in hand, I really want to start getting these weapon swings going. But Blade Storm can be a little bit of a tougher card to use. But for instance, in this scenario, he's ramping to 9. He played a Mount Seller with no support on 8. You know, what could he possibly be ramping into? I don't know.
It's definitely something to think about, right? Like, what is the Bomb Warriors' plan to turn the board state around? And that's why they're kind of dependent on cards like Brawl or the Deathwing Mad aspect. Because, you know, in even our practice games, TJ, we kind of encounter the same thing, which is the Warrior could slowly remove stuff, but when they finally run out of removal and they're starting their proactive plan, is it enough to turn things around? And a lot of times it's not. So it's a little tricky. Thankfully for bloodyface, though, it does seem like this Deathwing actually is just enough to take care of everything. Even though it won't kill the Astera, it would give him the ability to swing back. But then there's like bigger, long-scale or long-term problems, which is Survival of the Fittest has been played, and Druid, if they have any card draw and redevelopment, it's going to be super difficult to deal with.
Yeah. You know, we always fall into the trap of trying to be results-oriented, but, you know, bloodyface, Shield Slam, Wrench Caliber is the first exotic Mount Seller. And then Blade Storm Astera, he's only looking at a 7/9 there. His Deathwing Mad aspect actually sticks with a significant amount of health. And he's able to fight more consistently back, whereas Shield Slam, outside of the shield blocks in his deck, he doesn't have a way to consistently gain armor. It would also shuffle a bomb in earlier in his deck, which doesn't seem like it'll matter in this case because it seems like the play for bloodyface next turn is going to be Blastmaster Boom, almost no matter what. And maybe not no matter what, but it's very likely to be Blastmaster Boom. Well, Exotic Mounter is 9/12, but still, without a significant removal in hand, it's going to be tough to justify anything else.
Yeah, that Twilight Runner is super crucial for bloodyface, who finds a Blade Storm.
Oh,
that is
good.
Potentially game-changing here for bloodyface, as that would allow him to kill the Twilight Runner and stop the card draw.
Yep, and then he could also Dr. Krasnov over the exotic Mount Seller.
I wonder.
That is a very clean clear, utilizing all of his mana and buffing his weapon.
Yep, that's right. And so bloodyface has found a way to clear off, and I mean, that's so big. The fact that, you know, Eddie has nothing to develop unless he draws card draw. Okay, like Thresher, I mean, it's still a threat, but Eddie's now 3 turns away from killing bloodyface, because bloodyface will be gaining armor. And this is an opportunity for bloodyface to strike back. He can go ahead and play this Blastmaster Boom, which he's been waiting for a long time, shuffle another bomb in. And if anything, bloodyface is now threatening counter lethal. It's up to Eddie to try and figure this out.
Yeah, and with no Mount Sellers in deck and Ironbark, sure. I mean, he needs a lot of help from portals.
Yeah, this still could be a death situation here for Eddie, depending on how these boom bots go.
Yeah.
Okay, Corsair Cash doesn't really help. Double
also
shield
just
slam.
keep him alive. Just hit.
Yeah.
Take the 9 and then push 4. He would even develop with like Captain Greenskin behind it.
What now?
What do you think about double shield slam here? You would hero power, shield slam twice for 6, then just develop and push all in.
Yeah, you could still
all to
even
the
play
face.
Captain Greenskin in that situation as well. Yeah, and these
Yeah.
shield slams aren't really doing much in the hand. I mean, he's not even going to have any significant amount of armor to get through this. So I like it. Eddie looks dead to me.
There's still an opportunity for Dragon Portals to potentially swing this. It's just increasingly unlikely with each passing turn here as Bloodyface is off to a very quick
I
start.
concede.
And Eddie's just going to go ahead and concede, not even bother with it. Unless he saw the first card and already is ahead of us for a little bit. Either way, Bloodyface off to a good start. Kind of the same way he begins most Hearthstone Grandmasters campaigns, quite frankly. As it seems like he's just become one of the most winning players in Hearthstone, period. But this dominance over Americas, alongside Eddie, has been particularly noteworthy, as that warrior gets a win. Now, we go into Rogue and Mage, up against the rest of the lineups here for Eddie. And, you know, Rogue and Mage are a little bit more open-ended because they do seem to have much more of a even, or at least Mage does, has much more of an even matchup spread. Just, I think it's because due to the volatility of whatever Mage generates. I am particularly intrigued to see if Rogue can do well, given that Bloodyface is, you know, there's not too many people bringing Rogue. He's one of the few people that's chosen that. How do we feel about the state of Rogue currently, I guess, in the metagame? Because it does seem like it's a terror on ladder, and it's even receiving nerfs to Secret Passage. But it's not super popular in Grandmasters.
Yeah, and even the version that we see the most often in Grandmasters is not the version you see most often on ladder, where ladder is all about aggression. It's all about, you know, the stealth package and, you know, even some of the versions going hyper aggressive with the self-sharpening sword and weapon variation. Whereas in Grandmasters, we see, at least from Bloodyface and for players like Frozen and Bunny Hopper, they tend to go with the Secret Rogue more often than not. You know, Bloodyface had a massive win rate with a stealth variation of a similar deck. It was basically the same deck, but subbed out the Secret Shadow Johannar's Secret Package with stealth minions and Greyheart Sage. But the type of Rogue kind of has similar playstyles across each individual matchups. And I like Rogue because it is a very tough deck to play, at least the iterations that we're seeing in Grandmasters currently. And you do have to change your playstyle and your game plan based off of what deck you're playing. But it feels hit or miss. The deck either feels like it gets a huge Edwin Van Cleef or Questing Adventure early on in the game, or it just falls flat. And, you know, we even in some of the very long value games, if its big threats get killed, it doesn't have anything to back it up. It has to randomly generate its win condition, which a lot of times doesn't feel very good. And so I feel like while Bloodyface is one of the best pilots of this deck, Rogue is still, I have a lot of questions about whether or not it's consistent enough to be in a 4-deck Conquest lineup.
Yeah, that's a pretty good summary of it, and I think that, you know, we'll see if Bloodyface's Rogue can get him over the hump and give his Mage as many chances as possible. It does seem like a couple of decks that rely on certain strategies, like the Mage can, or even the Rogue, can sometimes beat itself. But that's kind of where that Rogue Secret Package really centers them, as we have seen some Rogues kind of move away from the stealth package entirely, and feel like they want a more consistent mid-range plan as opposed to just like all-out aggression that is determined, you know, by how good your opening hand is and if your opponent has an answer. Speaking of the opening hand, Eddie has an opportunity to utilize a lot of front-loaded ramp here. Go for this overgrowth on 1. Pretty aggressive, but what is Eddie really trying to accomplish by going for overgrowth this quickly as opposed to, say, even waiting a turn?
Well, it does just open up his options. He doesn't have anything that he's particularly ramping into. It opens him up to be able to draw ramp up following turns. Another big thing, and I've been playing this rogue deck on ladder, is if you don't spend the mana right away, you're going to get caught in awkward situations where you won't be able to spend the mana later on. Cold Neophyte being a big use case for that. Bloodyface has 2 copies in the rogue deck, and a lot of times, a Cold Neophyte blocking your planned ramp turn, and then a Cold Neophyte, a Shadow Step coming down, alongside like a Questing Adventure and Edwin Van Cleef on the Cold Neophyte means that you're essentially locked out for the entire game. So getting the ramp out of the way earlier can mean that you don't fall behind, that you get those mana crystals out of the way early, and these early turns are the weakest turns from this rogue deck. You're not really worried about them putting on a ton of pressure until they get to 4, 5, 6, because that's when they can make those big Questings and big Edwins. And it looks like Eddie just wants to make sure that he sets up the best possible situation once he arrives in this.
I mean, the Cold Neophyte is going to delay that just slightly, but we kind of knew that Eddie didn't really have anything to do anyways. Second Plagiarize. So Bloodyface kind of saw 2 turns of what looked like to be a little bit more on the desperate end of things. Druid would really prefer not to use Lightning Bloom and Overgrowth this early. And so maybe Bloodyface can use this opportunity to set up, and that's exactly what he chooses to do with that Questing Adventure. However, Eddie does have Speaker Gitra and that Ironbark, which actually will shut down most of this board.
Actually, not the easiest to deal with also. It's still a 4-4 with Taunt on the back of it. And Blackjack Stunner. Can be forced out. That's not the kind of situation that you want to use Blackjack Stunner. You usually want to use it to push your advantage, to have a big board state, and use the Blackjack Stunner to support that big board state. Not a great card when used as just a reactive tool to a big minion that your opponent already got value out of. And Plagiarize is going to be hit here. Just a teacher's pet. Plagiarize can be a lot worse. This deck, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it gives him something to play on curve as well. Chooses instead to go for a Blackjack Stunner just to make development options for Eddie even worse. I was kind of thinking about, keeping more of a flexibility of like Blackjack Stunner later on and playing the teacher's pet on curve. I am a little curious about it. I guess it's because Bloodyface feels like he wants to get that Plagiarize online, and if he's going to get that Plagiarize online, he needs to have that Blackjack Stunner played. Otherwise, there's no guarantee he's going to be able to activate it again. But again, it's a little bit of a deviation than I think the obvious play was, right? Which was you're at 5 mana. The biggest thing you can play is a 4/5 taunt. Certainly interesting.
I mean, it looks like he is going to get rewarded for this play, though, because it looks like Eddie wants to play Exotic Mount. Actually, no, he's only going into 6 mana. Yeah, because the Overgrowth. So no, not going to be rewarded for this play because Bloodyface will get all these cards in his hand, but won't be able to utilize any of them. And then we'll be stuck playing the 5 mana play next turn, not having an answer to the Exotic Mount Seller.
Well, he does have the Innervate.
Yeah, the Innervate. Because he gives him the Innervate. Honestly, fully expected him to just go Exotic Mount Seller Ironbark.
Well,
you do this, right?
Sure. I feel like you could use your mana a lot more efficiently than the Exotic Mount Seller, and it looks like Bloodyface agrees. He's going to go ahead and prep the Secret Passage instead of pushing out any minion before it, trying to capitalize on the turn that he has mana to play stuff as opposed to playing Secret Passage and getting cards that's unplayable. He finds the Hanar and a Shadow Step, but he has no secret, but he finds Ice Barrier. Aww. Okay.
It looks like he's specifically looking for an answer for a puzzle box for this Exotic Mount Seller.
Sure, there's a lot of removal, but...
he doesn't have a secret.
Yeah, that's why I said that's why I thought we were gonna take Ice Barrier there. Oh no, Bloodyface immediately.
Wait, what? A shame concede for Bloodyface? That's the first time I've ever seen that in my life.
Yeah, you don't really
Even
see that
Eddie's
every
confused.
day.
Look at him.
I'm not really sure what to say to that. Even the best in the world do it, right? Like they think that they have something going on, and they kind of miss an important step. They fumble, and out of shame and out of embarrassment, sometimes they instantly concede. I do that all the time on ladder. I've seen people do that to me all the time. I've seen people on stream do that when it's on their own personal channels. It's very rare to see that in Hearthstone Grandmasters in particular. So definitely a spicy game number 2, but it looks like bloodyface is like, you know what? I don't think I can beat that Druid anyways. They stuck Mount Seller. And realistically, if we played that game out, I'm pretty sure 9 times out of 10, Eddie's got it.
Yeah. Yeah, just a little weird to have it end that way. But bloodyface is gonna, take a little break. A little well-deserved break from the rogue deck. Gonna go ahead on over to Tempo Mage. Pretty standard Tempo Mage list, at least as far as what we've seen in previous weeks. Orange did make a push for rank 1 legend in Europe, as well as top 10 legend Americas with a similar list, except and a Cobalt Scalebane instead of the Jandis Barab and some Arcane Breaths to have some additional proactive 1-mana spells that with additional spells from outside of your deck. But bloodyface going with a little bit more standard, just added wand makers to the deck, which seem to be fantastic Tempo Mage because so many good 1-mana spells for Mage. And Eddie going to play the Highlander Priest. Not the best Highlander Priest against Mage. It does have an early curve, but it's got a Cobalt Sticky Finger in there. It's got Acidic Swamp Ooze. It's got Plague of Death, which can sometimes be good, but doesn't help you at all when you're trying to deal with tempo. So we'll see how it plays out, but I like bloodyface's deck for this matchup, especially given the techs.
Yep. Well, we shall see what the opening hands have given us for the beginning of this game. Looks like full mulligans on both sides. Nothing real great for Eddie at the very beginning of the game, but there's a lot of room for improvement. Finds the Draconic Studies and immediately gets offered some pretty good mid and late game options. Having another Dragon Queen Alexstrasza is great in terms of the value, but do you have the time and the ability to play that? Is more that question for Eddie.
Yeah, as much as I'd love to take it, Evasive Worm seems just like the better option, especially given his hand is so expensive already with Zolmir and Galakron. But you could also make the argument that with Zolmir and Galakron, you don't necessarily need an answer to a medium-sized threat. It's going to get killed off by one of those. So you can get a little greedy. And Twin Tyrant is kind of like an unnecessary middle ground. So I guess, get greedy. Play Dragon Queen Alexstrasza. Why not? What's he going to do? Kill you?
Sometimes the mage doesn't do a lot, right? Like there's so many different sides of how mage can choose to be aggressive, and sometimes they even go so far on the opposite direction of aggression where they just generate a ton of cards. They turn into like an impromptu combo deck. Eddie, of course, sees the card that was generated off the Wand Thief, which is pretty nice if he wants to play around that and he has a little bit more information. But Mana Giant and Mana Cyclone definitely are the more pressing threats. In terms of what best fits into his hand, I imagine just straight up removal with Rolling Fireball has to look the most immediately appetizing, unless he has different plans and feels like these minions are better.
Yeah, Priest can play cards that didn't start in their deck a good amount of time. With all of the invokes, with Renew, No Weaver, Wand Maker. So he could argue picking Mana Giant, but it's just too difficult. Also, Raise Dead. Mana Giant could start getting really cheap right now.
Right?
I definitely agree with the Rolling Fireball. He just wants to buy time till he gets to this big stuff.
Yeah, totally. And like, you know, he's now turned into just a simple like aggro / tempo matchup versus a deck that's very controlling. Highlander Priest has several different modes where it can kind of play for a long-term value. It can definitely grind out opponents in terms of like a control versus control, and also can play a tempo-based style as well if it draws the right side of the deck. You can see that bloodyface going for the clear, and Eddie's rolling fireball isn't enough to fully clear, but still a pretty nice way to deal with that Raz.
Yep. Just stifling the pressure from bloodyface.
Yep.
But bloodyface is just kind of waiting for a big pickup. Ram Session's a good draw. He's waiting for the big turn, the Sorcerer's Apprentice, Mana Cyclone turn, maybe even a Shinvala thrown in there if he has enough mana. Yeah, and Shinvala just right here with Sorcerer's Apprentice picked up, knowing that he's going to play Mana Cyclone turn. Might as well spend the minute to develop it. But
yeah, the Cabal Shadow Priest is really threatening. I know it's a one-of, right? It's a Highlander deck, so chances are he doesn't really have it. It's just it feels really bad to get stolen this way. You know, Eddie actually kind of hesitating and wondering if there's even a different series of plays. He did draw a double 3 with the Shadow Madness and the Apotheosis, but I don't know how much better that is versus to simply steal your opponent's Shinvala, which you know that they want to pop off next turn with.
Let me change your mind.
Okay. So I end up going with the Raised Dead on top of that. And I wonder if there's an important distinction, right? Like maybe Eddie is playing that Raised Dead now, so that way he doesn't have Chinvala and Cabal Acolyte or Cabal Shadow Priest in the pool if bloodyface ends up killing this board.
yeah. I think that's probably it. It's very high value. Oh wow, okay. Bloodyface gonna deviate from the Sorcerer Apprentice turn. I don't know how sure I am of this one, if only because the faster you go off with that turn, the faster you can get down Mana Giant Conjurer's Calling and dodge their removal.
The future is clear.
But
Yeah.
he will be able to hopefully pick up some additional spells, or maybe even do all that in the same turn if he gets a little greedy. The problem is, I also like to go off with those Sorcerer Apprentice turns before. I guess it wouldn't have been a turn before Murzon, because Murzon still had the Draconic Studies discount on it, but especially before Mindrender Lucia can come down and punish you, hold on to these resources for long. You have to start thinking about Mindrender, because if you have weak turns, then that's a good indication.
Yeah, I mean, Eddie has picked up Plague of Death to deal with big Mana Giants, and he knows Mana Giants in hand. He also saw the Wand Maker, and with the Sorcerer's Apprentice, almost has full knowledge of what bloodyface is holding. And we'll see bloodyface generate these cards with the Mana Cyclone. And we'll see what can be done. This Mana Giant, if these cards are cheap enough, could be even played this turn. But I have to imagine if bloodyface is kind of in tune with what things are going on, you're always keeping Soulmere in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
And actually, it's one of the more important cards in this matchup, because there are sometimes situations where you might end up reversing the board on yourself. Like, let's say you had a Raz and a lab partner. There's been times where I was playing the Mage. I wasn't careful about it. Wow, look at this pickup. Incredible AoE that actually lifesteals right back. Eddie's dominating the board here. And bloodyface might have to use the Devolving Missiles.
Yeah. No choice. Oh no!
Oh. Only one proc on the imprisoned satyr, right? Which means that it'll discount one of Eddie's minions, and he's got all expensive minions.
Huge minions. Oh my god.
These big dragons.
Alright. Bloodyface needs something massive here. Okay.
Wow,
whoa.
that's big.
Whoa. That's really good.
Troublemaker is
That's base
particularly
damage.
good. Exactly. And Eddie could play Murazond right back, but it looks like instead he might just Soul Mirror.
Oh. Well, these go face.
I don't think he's too worried about it.
They both went face. I know that face. I know it. Yep, they both went face. That's really bad. That's really, really bad. I think maybe you're supposed to unleash the Plague of Death there. You got an Imprisoned Satyr coming down the next turn to discount one of these big things. That is a risk that Eddie took that will not pay off because Bloodyface can actually
What to do?
almost clear up all this board and potentially push 12 damage to face. I feel like that's the only way he loses this game is by face damage, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think that Bloodyface, his only win condition is if he's able to burn out Eddie before he's able to get all of these starts online because he's not going to be able to go toe-to-toe for value. I will say, though, I don't think it's that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. Eddie does have, now Kronk's in the hand, so he's got double forms of healing. And he's also generating threats himself very soon. In fact, Eddie might be able to even do a pretty powerful and since kind of been forbidden combo of Galakrond plus Kronks. We haven't really seen that since Rogue, Galakrond Rogue days. He's super dominant for a brief period of time. But yeah, now Eddie's down to 9.
Oh, there it is.
But it is exactly how you
Mine
describe, which is still not a comfortable spot to be in, right? I still think this is completely winnable for Eddie. In fact, I still think he's in control. It's not comfortable.
I wonder.
Ooh, Shadow Madness, and then he even has the opportunity to do something really cute, like play Murazond, because we did see like Astromancer Solarium played, and we also saw Arcane Missiles and the Icicle. So there's some fun stuff that Eddie could do here.
Maybe it's just Galakrond.
You think this is your time?
Oh, Murazond could end up freezing his own stuff here.
I will crush your delusion.
Yeah,
Right, because there
was
there was 2 Ray of Frostblade? Oh no, there was only 1 Ray of Frostblade and he played an Icicle.
Oh!
Wow. Oh wait, no, wait. I thought there was a Ray of Frostblade.
No, it was an Icicle that was able to get that damage.
Yeah, but one of his minions was frozen the previous turn. Maybe it was the turn, even one turn before that. I don't know. That's weird.
Yeah, well, I remember what you were talking about, but either way, Bloodyface has a lot of mana to spend this turn, and if he picks Malygos, he doesn't actually have a way to capitalize off of it.
Well, he's got a certain percentage chance to win here. Didn't hit it with Grom.
And there's the Ray of Frost that you were kind of talking about, just trying to stall for as long as possible. And I believe that Eddie should have a board clear. The problem is the secret and how that interacts with some of the plays that he wants. Because I believe Galakrond and Kronks will deal with everything. I wonder if he wants to use the broomstick at all instead, just kind of ping off this 6/6. He also has spell damage in the form of the Penance and Lifesteal, so... Oh, wow!
So he didn't get any knowledge of secret there.
Right, no... It's hard. I don't think actually many secrets can activate off of the Galakrond battle cry there.
Time's run out.
That's why, like I was saying, maybe you start with a different thing there. But I guess he doesn't matter. Like before you spend the mana.
Right. So now we see the Flame Ward, Secret Diffuse. Cross can summon a big dragon. And Bloodyface is like unbelievable. Can't believe he found Kronks. Bloodyface finds another Primordial Studies, but I don't think that's going to do anything to bail him out here. He also finds another Malagos.
Astromancer, Solarian.
Right. Which Solarian Prime would be his out.
Yeah, but he can't play he'd have to just play Malagos and Ray of Frost. He can't even play the Astromancer Solarian this turn or else he dies. And I think Malagos has more value here because he still has Evocation in the deck, so it kind of has a taunt on it in some sense, or, you know, Eddie wants to deal with it.
Oh. Dragon Queen is just not highlighted anymore. Something that I forgot to mention. Shuffling multiple copies to your deck is tends to shut off the highlight effect. But it's okay because at its core, what really is important is Eddie's pressure. And nothing from Bloodyface. That's a concede. Eddie up 2-1. His first best 5. 1 game away from starting off his Grandmasters round robin stage exactly where he left off previously, where he's able to get back-to-back wins. He comes as a #1 seed. He's pretty much gotten every one of these competitive players' attention. Other people are starting to bring Turtle Mage now because of Eddie in other regions. This week, not so much. Eddie's chosen to switch off of his Turtle Mage. But what's done is done. It makes it difficult for anyone planning against him. People know their schedule ahead of time. They know I'm going up against Eddie this week. Am I worried about a Turtle Mage lineup, or am I worried about just normal Mage? And I think that's just the kind of dynamic that Eddie has created around himself.
Yeah, and you know it paid off in spades for him this week because his second opponent of the week, which is Language Hacker, has almost went all in on anti-Turtle Mage decks. He has Living Dragon Breath in 2 of his decks. He's going full on like aggressive with his like Zoo Warlock, has the Bomb Warrior with as many bomb shuffles as you can get, and a Soul Demon Hunter. So yeah, a Soul Demon Hunter with Consume Magic. All those things are just like, yep, that's anti-Turtle Mage as you can get. And then both Killen and Eddie bring. They got him. They got him good.
Yeah, I mean they kind of did, right? That's kind of the whole point of some of the dynamic that is set up with matches that you know ahead of time. You can try to plan around it. How do you utilize information to your advantage based off what people already know about you? And I think that kind of unpredictability is great. And I think that's what makes some of these heads-to-heads really exciting. Let's go into game number 4. Bloodyface, Last Life. Eddie, 1 game away from being in a good spot. And remember, Division A is particularly slanted towards wins, because after a certain win number, you're guaranteed playoffs, and it's a lot lower of a floor than it is in Division B, because you only get 7 games. You play each other only 1 time. And so if Eddie goes 1-0, gets 1 or 2 more wins, then he pretty much is in a position where he's very favored to go to playoffs. Each win is really important during these few weeks that we have in round robin.
Yeah. And sorry for my spiel earlier. I meant Monsanto. That's the one who had Killen and Eddie in the same week and went full anti Turtle Mage. No, I looked at Language Hacker's lineup, and I don't know, for some reason I saw Living Dragon Breath and assumed it was him, but it was Monsanto who's playing Killen and Eddie. Probably not going to work out well for him, but we'll see.
We shall see. I mean, Monsanto still is in Division A and maybe has a bone to pick with some of those players, which we'll talk a little bit more as we approach those matchups later today. Bloodyface has some enormous tempo that he can kind of seize here through the form of the Questing Adventurer and the Prep Secret package alongside the Blackjack Stunner. Just needs to wait one more turn before it all comes very nicely together.
Patience.
Timing is everything. I feel like most rogues have understood that. But for those who are kind of like dipping into this deck a little bit more and trying to understand how to increase the percentages further, it's purely about just getting a sense of when is the time to extend onto the board and answer it. You know, what's the most efficient use of your early mana crystals, because that does tend to be really important for rogue as a tempo-based class. And then for bloodyface, how can I ensure the best possible scenario for not only Questing Adventure, but even the Secret Passage in hand? You know, is he going to be playing things like the Miscreant first to try to follow up? Probably not. It's going to be more of a Secret Passage dynamic, but we'll see. In the meantime, for Eddie, he does get introduced with an opportunity to pick up removal or a secret. The secrets are kind of weak against rogue. I don't think Ice Barrier is really powerful. Flame Ward is like interesting, but kind of unreliable. So I think I do agree with the Arcane Breath here.
Maybe if bloodyface was playing a stealth version as opposed to the secret version, you could argue Flame Ward to try and block some damage later on in the game, but the biggest threats in the deck are Questing Adventure, Edwin Van Cleef, and to some extent Shadow Jeweler Hanar, and none of those have any impact. Both those secrets have no impact on how bloodyface wins the game.
Don't let the door hit
Yeah,
you.
going in with the Questing Adventure as soon as you can. I like this. Then can follow up with the support plays like you mentioned. Yeah, I mean, it's even though it's not maybe the most tempo-oriented mage deck we've seen in a long time, it is called Tempo Mage because it does rely on, at the very least, keeping up with tempo. And by forcing them to play their removal or their cheap spells before they get to the point where they want to combo it with Force Apprentice, Mana Cyclone, that can really throw them off their game.
Yeah, I mean, the spell damage is pretty clutch. Gives Eddie the way to deal with that Questing Adventure, and that's a card that, you know, if unchecked, can just simply lead to death. However, he did activate Dirty Secrets, so bloodyface does draw more cards. He doesn't have a secret anymore, so Blackjack Stunner is less effective. But drawing that Pharaoh Cat might be actually a nice nice silver lining here for bloodyface, even though he lost his Questing Adventure, because now he can activate the Evil Miscreant. Or even the Wand Thief and clean up the board if he's a little bit afraid of what might come out on turn 5. Ras seems to be a problem, as does Eddie and the ability to stay in his chair. It seems like maybe someone keeps knocking on his door or something. We'll get Eddie back momentarily.
Eddie, well known for leaving his chair. It's one of his signature moves in Grandmasters, actually. If you're really into people leaving their chairs, I highly recommend you follow Eddie and become a fan of him.
That's right, chair watch. Looks like both of these 5-mana 5/5s have only battle cries, so it's purely a mind game. And for bloodyface's side, it's probably just a guess. There is corner case upside to Crazed Netherwing. So, like, for example, if bloodyface had to use the Blackjack Stunner, you'd much rather return the Niagara Sandwich than the Crazed Netherwing, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's some weird things like Combustion and Rolling Fireball, too.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, that's a good point. Betrayal! I mean, that ends up being really bad for Eddie, too, because now he's going to lose everything, and Rogue is once again seized tempo. And this is a position that Mage can struggle really hard with. Wow. Devolving Missiles, as well as Fireball.
Spellbender with Shadow Jeweler and Prep in hand, though, also has.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And Spellbender can be... actually... Like he can protect from like Ray of Frost, but not as much as like counterspell because you still get the twin spell, so you can, you know, still freeze a giant questing adventure or something like that, and still get some burn with the Frostbolt. That was a crazy swing turn from bloodyface. That's kind of what the rogue deck does. It assembles this value. It kind of chips away at you, and then once it reaches this certain point, it feels like it's constantly refilling the board while also refilling its hand, which is a very frustrating state to be in, especially when you're playing a deck like Tempo Mage, which wants to also have those definitive swings and refill their hand, but it needs a lot more specific cards like Sorcerer's Apprentice in order to do that.
Yeah. Speaking of which, by the way, there's some interesting synergy with Arcane Fletcher and a rogue deck that likes to play things like Lackeys and Wand Thief.
Oh yeah.
Arcane Fletcher is the hunter card on the far left that says whenever you play a 1-mana minion, you end up drawing a spell from your deck. And that's pretty strong. Given that bloodyface now draw ambush, it looks like.
Yep.
Another devolving missiles. Puzzle box of Yogg-Saron. I mean, at this point,
And he just like leaned back and like longingly looked out his window.
yeah, almost as if he's kind of jailed in here at this point, like stuck into the rogue prison of Tempo. Okay, actually ends up being a more problematic minion than bloodyface was hoping for.
Yeah. That's a fully traded to it.
Right, but at least he can kill it.
Best turn.
All right, so Eddie has the ability to use Chenval this turn. TJ, please.
It's so funny. If his name was Eddie Face, imagine. Such a huge fan of Bloodyface that he named himself Eddie Face.
That's
Sorry,
right.
go ahead, Dave.
Maybe they have fusion danced and become one.
Yeah.
The ultimate America's GM. Chidvala can come out here and looks like Eddie can just try and fight back on the board, but he's running out of resources. And I was kind of debating between the Chinvala and things like the Mana Cyclone. Oh. Okay, it's not the... It's not
It's a 5/5.
the counter spell.
Yeah.
That's right.
But now, oh my gosh, 4 secrets.
Right.
Actually difficult to navigate because if you just go all in on secrets, Eddie can actually just keep developing, and you're not actually developing yourself unless you're finding secrets that generate minions, which more expensive, so can't fit as many in. Maybe he goes for a middle ground here and settles for a couple secrets, but then some development behind it. Pack Tactics.
Pack Tactics. Already has 2 plagiarizes. So can diversify. There's also a lot of hidden power in picking secrets from classes that aren't rogue, or rather just not of the same, because you just increase the range so dramatically that it's difficult for your opponent to account for all of them. So he has a paladin, a rogue, 2 rogues it looks like. But of course Bloodyface going to prioritize removing that Chinvala. It seems like he is okay dragging this out into a value battle. Which is interesting, right? Rogue was in the position to generate tempo. And Eddie fought back so aggressively for tempo, and Bloodyface now has the opportunity to go for value instead. Bamboozle produces. Malagos aspect of magic.
And not never surrender.
Eddie has the ability to go ahead and diffuse more of these secrets. Sees that there's no repentance either. Nor is there a ambush played, which he knows is drawn from the deck, or sorry, he knows that one could be drawn from the deck.
What to do? What to do?
And I
Eye
believe
for an eye
Runs
chess.
out on me.
yeah, we'll test our eye for an eye. And find play draws on the other side, which I think he already anticipated, but also,
hand is
what
too
is that
full.
paladin secret?
He didn't even want that anyway.
Yeah, it's actually
Oh,
a pretty good
jeez.
burn from bloodyface's side.
Yeah. Eddie has a long way to go. Bloodyface, though, no more Shadow Jeweler Hanar, so can't keep getting this crazy infinite value. For a couple reasons. One, obviously the disconnect, but two, Bloodyface has no hand space. The other side of the secret passage.
Muzzle their magic.
The value that he gains here is wasted. Oh, it's limited here. It just has a feral cat.
Right. Okay, shuffles a winged guardian into the deck. Does he have a dragon?
It doesn't matter. He won't get it. Right? Oh no, he will get it because it'll stay.
Muzzle their
He
magic.
discards the 2 cards on the end, which was Violet Spellwing and. Oh no, he's not gonna discard anything right now because he didn't Shadow Sip anything. He just has Winged Guardian, so his hand's just gonna be full.
Right. Yeah. So it kind of places everything back, and he's just gonna have a full hand.
Yeah.
And I think, again, that's fine. He's gonna be totally okay in terms of the value department. Jeez. The double Cult Neophyte making Eddie's life real difficult. The Rolling Fireball looks pretty good here. Clears off everything, and there's only a Paladin secret left.
Yeah, which he knows is redemption, pretty sure. Test for Eye for an Eye, Repentance, Never Surrender, Noble Sack. Not really anything else he can do.
What to
Everything's
do?
just so expensive.
What to
And
do?
this type of situation, you just want to say, get that Cult Neophyte off the board, start over next turn, see what I
Runs
can
out
do.
on me.
Yeah, there's not really too much that Eddie could be doing in this spot, given that his spells are just way too expensive, and therefore it would just be too much lost tempo to pay a a premium on some of these spells that don't really do too much. But Bloodyface is kind of overwhelmed with the option here. He's got cards that generate more cards. And I think, like, in the end, it's kind of exactly what you described. He's been slowly losing a little bit more health while he continues to amass value. I don't think we need value anymore.
No, I don't. I think it's time to stop the value. And start the just winning. Eddie has kind of been playing a control game plan from the time when he knew that he wasn't going to be able to win value. He hasn't been worried about too much development. He's just been playing enough stuff to kind of stop whatever Bloodyface is trying to do. But other than that, he's kind of okay with keeping the status quo.
I will crush your delusion.
Because he still has some big stuff left in his deck. He still has Sorcerer Apprentice left. He still has some big turns
Right into my
potentially. There's the Sork.
All right.
Oh, he's got to go. He started his turn a little late.
Moving pretty quickly, though.
Yep.
No devolving missiles.
Animated Avalanche, if he's going to end this turn with Mana Cyclone, is actually not bad.
I like it.
And Vaporize.
Time runs out on me.
2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 7, 8.
Full hand.
It is full hand, yeah.
So did he find a playable card? He does. Look,
wasn't
learn
quite a full
Draconic. Yeah, it was 9 cards instead of 10.
Yeah.
Still though, pretty
Wow.
good turn.
Double cram session. Another learn Draconic. Frostbolt and Arcane Explosion. He also picked up a Flame Strike, so this is a great board, or great suite of spells if you're trying to stick a board and push past. But not so great of a hand if you're trying to just kill your opponent from hand. Which I don't think we've reached that point yet, but Bloodyface is getting quite low. Bloodyface is actually just struggling right now to spend all of his mana each turn. There we go, that'll help. A little bit of removal.
Right, sees. Things like Spellbender, not really active here, so he's still worried about like Flame Ward, Ice Barrier. I believe Mirror Entity has also been checked.
Mummy needs 5 more minutes.
And now Bloodyface all out on the board development. Finds a Water Elemental, just turning all of his cards into Mage cards. This Flame Strike looks particularly appetizing, though, for Eddie's side.
Oh, yes.
Oh, interesting. Wand Maker.
You can still go for it and maybe find Arcane Missiles.
I was expecting Arcane Explosion to just make it very clean.
Yeah,
But
you just wanted a
now
board, I guess.
Oh, he was testing the secret, perhaps?
Oh, yeah.
He knows, yeah, because there's a Hunter secret played.
Yeah, because if he plays our Arcane... Wait. Like if he... I don't know. What Hunter secret could punish you there? Like Pressure Plate doesn't do anything in Flame Strike first.
Right. Oh, maybe he didn't want Pressure Plate to activate and potentially hit his dragon? No, because he
No, because he was
he
only
still didn't
spending-
have it active. Right,
Yeah.
right.
I don't know, Dan. It's a mystery. File it away in the unsolved...
He's playing around something that it's not immediately obvious to us, but he's like improving his odds. It's just I'm gonna trust Eddie on this one. That it was a technically correct play here.
Yep.
Just because there's so much more to talk about right now. Bloodyface has the Plagiarize, and he's immediately going for a secret passage, which I was kind of wondering, right?
Cards.
Yeah, I was thinking about like when are you going to play it if you don't have many cards to draw? Because this is kind of coming down to the wire here. Finds Edwin,
Don't let the door
Blackjack
hit you.
Stunner.
So the one good thing about that secret passage is
The Brotherhood
Bloodyface knows exactly how much mana he needs to spend because he knows exactly which cards are left in his deck. So like
true.
he knows, all right, my play is I need Blackjack Center Edwin Van Cleef. That's the most powerful thing I can do this turn is develop a 10/10. That's what I need. But now, do you win the game with these cards? I highly doubt that.
It can. I mean, Mana Cyclone can still generate some pretty ridiculous stuff. But I am on your side where I feel like Eddie has the control. Especially if he's able to play things like this Deep Freeze and just put Bloodyface in a really terrible spot where he has to commit his resource either to not die or try to go for an extremely risky play, and if he's not paid off with the exact combination of spells he's looking for, he's going to die. Oh, okay. I mean, this is another way to push the pace, too.
Yep.
The Archmage Antonitis.
Yep, Frostbolt. Set up for the 2-turn. Even if it's Plagiarize, Bloodyface doesn't have the mana to...
Right, there's still a
capitalize on
secret up, right?
Yeah. Oh no, he gave him an Archmage Antonitis!
Cards.
Only he had about 40 more health.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 out of the 10 cards in Bloodyface's hands belong to the Mage class. Just want to point that out. I guess Jandis Baroff technically is split, so it's just kind of funny when you look at how much Rogue needs to improvise here to win. And they only have one card that's purely for their own class, and Eviscerate. Yeah, I mean, what do you do here, your Bloodyface? You just have to fish for some way to stay alive, and does not do so. He knows with a double Fireball. And if he does play the Cult Neophyte, Fireball still costs 5, and Eddie can play 2 of them. That's going to be game number 4. Eddie takes his first best of 5 in the round robin stage, and is once again off to a good start, taking down one of the hardest opponents, I think, in Group Division A. So pretty fun start to the week, TJ. We saw some cool plays. We saw some wacky moments. We also saw Shame concede. That series had a lot of fun Hearthstone moments, I'd say.
Yeah, I don't want to take anything away from Eddie's win because I feel like he played exceptionally, but it did seem like a little bit of an off day for Bloodyface. Even the Warrior game that he won looked a little shaky at certain points, and I've never seen a play like that from Bloodyface, though he has said and told us it's happened before. It's just never happened on stream. It always happens in Swiss when nobody's watching, or the only person that's watching are his opponents. So, but yeah, big win for Eddie. Start things off with a dub, and continuing the dominance from Swiss, and Eddie looking for that world championship spot that Bloodyface already holds. And so if you want that spot, the best person to start off a win with is the other guy you're going to see there.
That's right, and maybe a good sign that they're practicing with each other and helping each other really develop these strategies. But that brings us to our next